Second child in as many days who has been temporarily placed on the waiting list for adult lung recipients. Wednesday, the same judge ruled an exception be made for 10-year-old Sarah Murdahan. Like Javier Acosta's family, Sarah's family sued Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius to change the rules so the kids under 12 can be placed on the same list as adults waiting for adult lungs. Joining me now is David Magnus, director of the Center for Biomedical Ethics at Stanford University, and Howard Nathan, president and CEO of the Gift of Life Donor Program. Gentlemen, it's good to have you here. Howard, let me start with you. First of all, why aren't children under 12 allowed to get adult lungs? Break it down for us.
Well, I think the concept of the allocation system was that kids needed kids' organs, that typically an organ has to fit inside the child. So that's the most important part, not only about how sick they are, but how the organ fits into the child. And I think the concept is that to put them on the adult list would be superfluous. There have been some cases where organs have been cut down, but they're very, very rare operations.
So, David, if we look at the statistics right now, out of roughly 1,700 people waiting for a lung transplant, 16 of them are children under the age of 11. So is the judge doing the right thing in making these exceptions, or is this setting up the potential that the judicial system is going to be seen as playing favorites here? The same issue that Secretary Kathleen Sebelius had raised.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways this is a disaster. It's really, really important that the people who donate organs have faith in the system and that we have a fair system that also does a good job of marshaling and stewarding this incredibly scarce resource. For situations like this where you're talking about young patients and the possibility of getting adult organs put into them, it's a very difficult issue, as are all allocation decisions. So experts, ethicists, surgeons, experts on the different organ systems spend a lot of time trying to find exactly the right policies, and they do change and they revisit them over time, but that's the right way to do it, is to have experts do it, not Congress and not a judge.
Howard, do you think from your organization's standpoint that we need to revisit, because right now, because of this controversy, and especially in regard to the government's role in ensuring life-saving access to health care, do you think that these cases show an area because there needs to be something shorn up, that we're missing out on something? We need to revisit why these kids are falling through the cracks.
I think the biggest issue, Thomas, is really the shortage of organs. What we need to do is to get the public to see that this happens every day. There are 118,000 people waiting, 6,500 just in our Philadelphia region. If we had more organ donors, more organs available, many of these issues just wouldn't occur. Certainly what David said is absolutely right. The OPTN has been thoughtful about this. The models that have been developed have been done by experts in the field. It's a very transparent policy. And certainly if there needs to be a review, I'm all ears, and I think the rest of the community is. But I think the real issue is organ donation and organ donors for people to register.
I want to make sure, though, that we hear, because lawmakers are weighing in on this issue, and I want to make sure that everybody hears from Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey, who had this to say on the Senate floor yesterday. Take a listen.
I am not asking Secretary Sebelius to make an exception for one individual. We're asking for a change in a policy that is flawed and that is currently excluding somebody from being on the list to be an organ donor recipient that ought to be on that list.
All right, so David, he's asking for an overhaul here. Where should they draw the line on this and other types of medical issues? You think that they're really opening up a can of worms here?
I do. I think it's the wrong way to develop policy. We have a situation where there's a lot of media and a lot of concern for a single individual, and now Congress is weighing in. The way to develop allocation policies is to have the experts really work through that. They've done this very successfully. We've just changed recently the way in which kidneys are allocated, but it's a very complex process that involves a lot of people with expertise really looking at what produces the best results so that we can do a good job of marshaling this very, very scarce resource.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. David Magnus, Howard Nathan, it's really important that we continue talking about this, because there are a lot of parents out there that would like people in Washington, D.C. to make some decisions that could be more helpful for their kids. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be right back with our agenda panel after this.